Man, if you watch this game, you know exactly the emotional roller coaster it turned into. It all started looking like one of those afternoons where Philadelphia walks in, sets the tone, and never looks back. The energy was insane, the crowd was loud, even in enemy territory, and the team came out firing like they had something personal to prove. Before anyone could blink, Philadelphia had jumped to a lead of 21-0, and everything felt like it was clicking at the highest level. The quarterback was locked in, throwing darts all over the field. The star receivers were slicing through coverage like it was nothing, and the offense was humming with that swagger fans have been begging to see again. But the wild part is how quickly everything flipped. After that opening avalanche of points, it was as if a completely different team walked onto the field wearing the same uniforms. The mistakes started piling up. Drives that had been smooth and confident suddenly got stuck in the mud. And little by little, the game that looked like a celebration waiting to happen turned into one of the ugliest collapses Philadelphia has had in years. Giving up 24 unanswered points is brutal in any context, but blowing a lead that big in a divisional game, that stings deeper than anything. It felt surreal watching it unfold. Philadelphia had the early momentum, the early turnovers, the early fireworks. Then all the momentum drained out of the building. Dallas kept punching, kept attacking down the field, kept making adjustments defensively, and Philadelphia just kept slipping further into the quicksand. There were moments that could have changed everything, big moments that could have stopped the bleeding, but every single time, something went sideways. A dropped interception, a massive completion given up, a drive-killing mistake. And when you stack all those moments together, the whole thing spirals. And you have to talk about the penalties because they destroyed any chance of stabilizing the game. It felt like every time Philadelphia made a positive play, the officials were turning around and walking the ball backward because someone committed a completely avoidable mistake. 14 penalties for almost 100 yards is the kind of stat line you expect from a team that is lost, not a team trying to fight for top playoff position. Those calls ruined drives, killed momentum, and turned manageable situations into impossible ones. There was even a moment in the second half where a beautiful throw down the sideline should have set Philadelphia up deep in scoring territory, but it all got erased because of illegal hands to the face. Instead of staying aggressive, the entire drive deflated, and that was the one that ended in a long missed field goal. Add that to the pile of what-ifs. The craziest thing is that the quarterback actually played well. He moved the ball, he hit his receivers, he kept the offense alive when everything around him started unraveling. The top receivers stuffed the stat sheet, showing up in big moments the way they always do. But football is brutal because it doesn't matter how good your stars play if the rest of the engine keeps stalling. And the engine absolutely stalled. Between the procedural mistakes, the missed opportunities, and the sudden fear of pushing the ball aggressively like they did in the beginning, the offense completely lost its identity. Defensively, this was one of those games where the group that had been carrying the team all season suddenly ran out of gas. They still forced turnovers, still gave the offense chances to retake control, but they also gave up chunk play after chunk play. Dallas kept finding open receivers deep down the field and ripping off long drives that sucked the air out of the stadium. And with the secondary dealing with injuries left and right, it became a constant scramble to hold things together. That eventually caught up with them, and showed in a big way as the game wore on. What makes this loss even harder to swallow is how much was on the line. This was a chance to stay in complete control of the division, to keep a huge advantage in the playoff race, to keep the pressure off heading into a stretch of games that does not get any easier. Instead, everything tightened up. Suddenly, the race is messy again. Suddenly, every game matters even more. Suddenly, the margin for error drops to 0. And when Philadelphia has 8 wins and 3 losses, with another tough matchup coming immediately after this collapse, the entire season feels like it is standing at a crossroads. And you can see the frustration boiling over because this was absolutely a winnable game. When you jump ahead by 3 touchdowns that early, you cannot let the momentum disappear. You cannot get conservative. You cannot expect the defense to bail you out forever. Offenses in this league are too explosive, too talented, too capable of shifting the entire vibe of a game with just a couple of big plays. That is exactly what happened. Dallas landed those big shots, and Philadelphia stopped throwing theirs. And the penalties kept dragging everything down. 14 of them. Almost a full football field of lost yardage. That ruins everything. It ruins rhythm. It ruins field position. It ruins confidence. It changes how coaches call the rest of the game. It forces your offense into long yardage situations over and over again, and no offense in the league can survive that repeatedly. That is why this loss feels so infuriating. It was not about being outmanned. It was not about being outcoached for the entire game. It was about self-inflicted wounds. It was about losing focus. It was about letting a divisional rival snatch the game away simply because the team stopped doing the basics that got them the lead in the first place. And beyond the scoreboard, the trenches were a real problem. The interior offensive line struggled from start to finish. Running lanes were disappearing before the ball even got into the running back's hands. Pressure was coming straight through the middle. Timing was thrown off constantly. And if you cannot win those battles, it becomes a nightmare trying to run an offense that is built on rhythm and timing. The running back looked explosive when he actually had space, but the problem was that space almost never existed. What makes everything even worse is hearing people try to blame the official for the loss. Not this time. This was not on them. This was on Philadelphia. The mistakes came from within. The collapse came from within. The penalties came from within. The conservative play calling came from within. You cannot blame anyone else when you give away a lead like that and stop scoring entirely for more than 40 minutes of football. And the thing that keeps lingering in everyone's mind is how a team that started so dialed and suddenly looked like it forgot who it was supposed to be. The confidence from those early 3 touchdowns felt real, felt earned, felt like the exact version of Philadelphia people expected to see entering this part of the season. Then suddenly the aggression disappeared. Drives got timid. Decisions became hesitant. The spark vanished. And when you let a rival hang around long enough, especially a rival that thrives on explosive momentum swings, you open the door for disaster. That is exactly what happened. It was a slow drip of mistakes that eventually turned into a flood that nobody could stop. You look back at the turning points, and you can almost feel the air leaving the team one mistake at a time. The dropped interception that should have put the offense back in position to bury the game. The 50-yard shot over the top that lit a fire under the opposing sideline. The long drive where a missed tackle turned a routine situation into a crowd-shaking highlight. Every one of those moments shifted the tone just a little more. As the game went on, it started feeling like the team was waiting for something to go wrong instead of attacking the moment. And that hesitation is deadly at this level. The second half was almost uncomfortable to watch. Every time the offense came out, it felt like a missed opportunity waiting to happen. Neutral zone infractions, illegal formations, false starts, blocks in the back, hands to the face, all the little things that make coaches lose their minds. These are not complicated concepts. These are not exotic coaching techniques. These are basics, fundamentals, the type of discipline that separates elite teams from vulnerable ones. And in this game, the discipline simply vanished. One of the most frustrating sequences came early in the third quarter when Philadelphia finally had something building. A clean play design worked perfectly and converted a first down, only for the officials to immediately announce that it never counted because someone lined up incorrectly. That is the kind of mistake that disconnects the whole offense. You could feel the frustration leaking out of the players, the coaches, and the fans. Once the momentum slipped away, it never came back. And there is no hiding the fact that the secondary was stretched to the breaking point. Injuries kept piling up. Rotations kept shifting. Backup players were being thrown into one-on-one matchups against some of the most explosive playmakers in the conference. That is not a recipe that leads anywhere good. You could see the communication breaking down on deep routes. You could see receivers streaking into open space with too much ease. You could see the frustration on the defenders' faces as they tried to hold everything together while the offense continued to stumble. The game turned into a scenario where the defense was begging the offense to step up, to finish one drive, to take one chunk of clock away, to give them a breather. But that moment never came. Instead, the offense kept wasting possessions with penalties, stalled drives, and empty trips. A team that started the day looking unstoppable suddenly looked like it had no path forward. And then you think about how the offensive line factored into this collapse. The edges held their own, but the interior got bullied repeatedly. When your center and guards are constantly getting pushed backward, your quarterback starts feeling pressure, even when it is not there. It speeds up the internal clock. It ruins the base of the pocket. It messes with the whole flow of the passing game. And the running game? It never even had a chance. The running back was fighting through a sea of bodies just to get back to the line of scrimmage on half of his carries. Nobody can work like that, not even the best in the league. And yet, for as much chaos as there was, the quarterback kept fighting. He kept the offense alive with big throws, smart decisions, and even a few tough runs that required everything he had. He delivered on every chance he was given. But he cannot snap the ball, block, catch, and run the entire offense alone. When penalties keep dragging every good play into the dirt, even the quarterback cannot overcome that. But the truth is, this loss runs straight through the coaching staff as well. It is hard to ignore the pattern that has been emerging over the season. Slow adjustments, conservative decisions when aggression is needed, a growing list of procedural errors that point to bigger preparation issues. It is not just one game. It is a trend. And trends this late in the season are red flags. Championship teams tighten up the details as the year goes on. Philadelphia is doing the opposite. And now the schedule does not let them breathe. There is another emotionally charged game waiting right around the corner. A game against a Chicago team that has been more competitive than anyone expected. You cannot limp into that matchup playing sloppy football. You cannot come in with this many mistakes and assume everything will just sort itself out. This is the moment where teams either rise or unravel. Philadelphia has put itself in a position where it must respond immediately. Because the division is getting tight, the conference race is shifting quickly, and the margin for error is shrinking by the minute. The part that makes this sting even more is how much Philadelphia's fans showed up. The stadium crowd was roaring with nearly half the seats filled with green jerseys. They traveled. They brought the energy. They showed belief. And the first quarter delivered exactly what they came for. But the rest of the game felt like a slow-motion disappointment, the kind that fans remember for a long time. When you win a game like this, it becomes a defining moment. When you lose it like this, it becomes a lesson that burns. And through all of it, one thing stands out like a flashing sign. You cannot win against high-powered opponents if you keep making the same mistakes every single week. You cannot keep hoping your stars will drag you out of trouble. You cannot keep expecting last-minute heroics to cover up sloppy execution. Eventually, the cracks get too big, and a game just like this one slips right through. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Patrick Mahomes has set off a wave of quiet but persistent murmurs after a brief and seemingly offhand remark about the Eagles began circulating behind scenes. According to people close to the situation, the quarterback's reaction was far from the polished, predictable tone many expected. Instead, it carried a hint of competitive tension and unexpected admiration that instantly fueled speculation across the league. Witnesses say Mahomes was asked about the growing narrative surrounding the Eagles' recent form and the way their roster has been evolving. Rather than offering the usual generic compliments, he reportedly paused, smiled, and delivered a comment that insiders are now dissecting with forensic detail. Some claim he hinted at a different kind of challenge the Eagles represent this season. Others insist he suggested that certain matchups against them linger longer in a quarterback's mind than most people realize. Those words alone were enough to send social media into a frenzy, as fans and analysts alike scrambled to interpret what exactly he meant. Was it respect? Was it frustration? Was it a subtle warning? No one seems to agree. What is clear, however, is that Mahomes' tone carried more weight than the typical locker room diplomacy. The rumor mill suggests he might have been referencing specific defensive tendencies that have caused trouble in the past, or perhaps an emerging rivalry he believes is still far from reaching its peak. There are also whispers that his comment was meant to fire up his own teammates, a strategic nudge wrapped in a public compliment. Whatever the intention, the buzz around Mahomes' reaction has only grown. Coaches, players, and media members are reportedly replaying the moment, searching for subtext. Even those accustomed to Mahomes' competitive calm admit that something about his delivery felt sharper, more personal, almost as if he were already preparing for a clash that hasn't yet been written on any official schedule. For now, no clarification is coming from his camp, and that silence, intentional or not, has become part of the story. The only certainty is that Mahomes' few unexpected words about the Eagles have become the week's most intriguing mystery, leaving fans wondering whether they just witnessed the spark of the next great NFL storyline. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.